Hey, how's it going? I have some cards. Please take a look at my signs. Just for that. The word escapes me. Well, anyway, I put it up there for my own protection. Okay, so what I've had on my mind for a while now that I know a lot of people are picking up on it, have long since picked up on it, but what I've had my mind on in the past couple of days, and with the news that's coming out, I feel like it won't be long until it's also on everyone's mind how what reality is, the way that we have perceived it, many of us for, like our adult lives or actually just all of our lives, you grow up thinking things are a certain way. Like you look at them and the appearance reassures you and it has meaning to you and it's like a foundation or a fixture of your life. And lately, when did I start noticing that this just wasn't the case? That you're being fooled. I think probably the first thing that clued me in was people in situations where the majority are saying one thing and then there's like a couple of few that are saying something else, and it kind of makes sense, and they're real urgent, and they're very sincere, and I have felt like, gosh, I really want to believe these people, but then like everybody else and the pull that can, like the momentum that it can drag, that has to drag the collective along with it, is strong, and so you might begin to doubt yourself, and people will already be like mocking you and going, "Oh, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about," and that's something that we're kind of conditioned to do. But then there's also people whose jobs it is, like literally, to dissuade you from what your senses are telling you is the reality. So, reality in a general sense is a facade. And if you're not familiar with the term, I learned it growing up in Hollywood that it's like a movie set thing. Like if you see a Western on a screen, then you know that in all likelihood, the fronts of the building are just a panel that look like the front of the building, and then on the other side of it is a set. And that can be moved around and manipulated to look any number of ways, but it's not the place that it's depicting necessarily. It's not necessarily at the location it's claiming to be. And so that's one way, that's the first way I learned of the word. I'm sure it has other synonymous meanings, but this one applies because what I'm saying is the reality that we're all so used to, that we think is just so solid and reliable and true and real, you might have noticed it's not really. Like, it's an act performed on the set of reality, like performed on in and on the facade, and it's flimsy. It's not even that believable or real if we start to doubt it, if we start to notice inconsistencies. And that looks like two-tiered legal systems and wealth disparity, and the way one person's perception from, say, one end of the pole of wealth disparity, or race unrest, if one person on one end of the stick or one end of the focus will perceive what's happening in a way that is the polar opposite a lot of times from the person at the other end. So I'm saying, like, the first person I mentioned would be the person on the receiving end, and then the deliverer doesn't necessarily see it that way. Like, if you're a race and you say that's racist, or you somehow want to convey that feeling that you have that, like, this is unfair, and I feel like it's a racist thing. I'm going to interrupt myself to say that I don't even speak up and say anything about that anymore, because it's pointless at this juncture in time. There's no reasoning with people about it. And I don't know that there ever will be. And back to what I was saying, because one person's perception is not going to match the other person's perception unless they're, willing to hear it, or, like, understand that this person has with the other perception that differs so radically from yours, has a valid point of view. Like, that little tiny point of, like, being willing to concede a point, or to being open to synonymous realities, then you have a problem. You have a roadblock. You have a barrier. And so, as far as that's concerned, regarding the reality situation of what's real, what makes it real, why is it pretending to be real, why is it putting up a whole facade, like, what is it hiding? Why is it hiding? Why can't you just come out and say, those are the doubts. Those are the inconsistencies you start to notice, and that makes the flimsy facade, like, the less belief there is to give the facade starch collectively, the less able it's going to be able to maintain an upright position. It's going to collapse, and then all kinds of garbage is going to come falling out. I'm referring to the Epstein files, of course. So, and that particular, that's just like one sort of little outbreak of that particular virus, that particular rash. I've been looking at as many perspectives of that as, like, I don't know if I'm deliberately doing that, like, looking at perspectives just to, I don't know, understand all of the points of view. It's just that my algorithm is surfing it up, and I'm interested. So it points to, like, topical events in reality, or in time right now, and as one reality is sort of falling down and realizations are being had and being made, I think that right there is sort of like what becomes the construction of the next new reality, which I hope is, more real and has less sort of, secretive stuff and buried things that are a detriment to everybody else. Okay, that might have been a little vague. I don't know. I don't know what you're looking at. That is my perspective. Okay, so I have some cards. First one is from the Declarations of Mary Magdalene deck, and it says, presence is present when one is surrendered in the now. Presence is present when one is surrendered in the now. It got me thinking about that thing that I like to say to drag myself into, like, the reality of the moment. Like, don't go spiraling off, come back to earth. And that is to say to myself, here and now. And it just is a reminder that you're here right now, and look around. What's happening? Not what you were freaking out about. So, don't go there. If it's upsetting, But this presence is mentioned a lot lately in the spiritualities that I'm looking at. And I sort of was wondering how people are perceiving that. As far as here and now is concerned, I feel like my understanding has dawned that that's like the essence of it is you're here and now. That's presence. When you are right there, grounded in the moment of what's happening around you instead of flights of fear or fantasy, that's presence. And so if you can bring that to other situations or people that are sort of spiraling, then you're like a grounding node, and I think that's a good thing. I think that we can all be that for each other. I think we're meant to be that for each other. Presence is present when one is surrounded in the now. Surrounded in whatever the now happens to be happening around you. So I have some other cards from the... Which one is this? Shaman's Dream Oracle. Sorry, my mind fritzed for a minute there. So I have a book that goes along with those, and usually I just sort of read these without the manual, but I pulled one, and I kind of have the gist of it, but I just felt like I really needed to use the book. And then when I went to... Well, the book had to be printed, so it didn't come bound, and so I have these pages, and I've had them for years now, and they've been on the shelf behind me, literally under a rock, paper holder. What do you call those things? Well, anyway, I keep them under a rock, and so they haven't moved. I haven't been using them that much. I certainly haven't been using the book for a while now. Anyway, I went to pull the page from the book from the one card that I was looking at and kind of feeling like I needed the book, and I can only each card has 2 pages, and so I could only find 1 page, and I had just knocked it down earlier. Years it sat there under the rock. I move it, and the day after I move it, I run into it and knock the whole thing. Again, it's not bound. It's 69 cards. It fell on the floor. I don't know how. It barely got out of order, but somehow one of the 2 cards for the one card that I thought I wanted to look at, couldn't find it. My mind went a few places. It went, and this is like an old habit. It went to, oh my God, freak the freak out. But I didn't. I just kind of gave it a look of consideration, like, is that even useful right now? Because I really just wanted to find it, because of where it has just been for so long undisturbed, and I know exactly when I knocked it over, and it all happened like boom, boom, boom in sequence. I didn't like drop it and then come back 2 days later and come through and, move stuff around. It had to just be here. So I was like, okay, don't lose your mind. And I had to sift through them. And then I found the other one, and the whole time I was doing that and like counseling myself not to freaking lose it. I was like, there has to be a lesson in that. So it's pretty recent event that was. Whatever the lesson was, haven't gotten there yet. So I'm just going to start with the Shaman's Dream Oracle cards. I got, these are numbered, but I'm not really planning on doing number stuff right now. So, number 14 card, Drifter. And the subtitle is Experiencing Life as It Comes. That's interesting. I had just said something to somebody online that is like a new friend, and their energy is very, like, cranked up and sort of a spray, a disparate. He's all over the place, and he's like super ADHD. That's what I'm gonna call it. But he has some kind of ADHD thing. And he had characterized himself, and then I was like, I want to believe this is the case, and I feel like it is because I do tend to just sort of be in one place all the time, and it's the very much the same one a lot. And so I was like, well, I'm like a leaf that I just go where I get taken in the stream. I'm not like fighting it or anything. I don't even have arms. And that's, I might have been like something with arms that struggled with the flow, or struggled with being like dragged along in a current. I don't do that anymore. I can genuinely say that. So I don't know, maybe the leaf is true. Maybe I am resistant to being that passive. But as the subtitle says, I have learned that I just kind of have to experience life as it comes. So life right now, you know, comparatively, it's a good experience. I really cannot complain. And so, this has a picture of it. Well, you can look for yourself. It has a picture of what looks like a Chinese junk, which is a certain type of ship, sailing ship. Very common. I believe they're still in pretty common use in China. Been around a really long time. And the sails in particular identify them for me, especially from that particular angle where you can't see it from the side very well. But that's like, I don't know other ships that have those particular sails. And the other thing about that type of ship is the rudder, which steers it, and it's at the back of the ship, is like a long pole, but it also propels the ship in a way. I believe they wave it back and forth. That's just words I'm using to describe it. What they're actually doing is probably a little more than waving it back and forth. But, you know, I know that I've seen pictures of them seated and they're doing this with the rudder. So, it's in there. I don't know how to apply that to what I was saying, except this is a description. And they seem to be sailing down a corridor. I don't know if it's like flooded buildings or what. It kind of looks like it might be that. I don't know, but it's flooded. Like there's like a big tall doorway. There's some sort of like maybe like an emblem of a company or a clock. And this has like maybe a bunch of windows. I don't know. It's not like really clear. But anyway, like if this were Wall Street, I'd say Wall Street's pretty messed up right now. And how, you know, maybe it's Chinese Wall Street, because I was going to say, how would a Chinese junk be in New York? I don't know, like Chinese Wall Street. So anyway, it is the institutions, the big things that we're used to, like the banking industry and Wall Street. And there seems to be a storm happening, maybe a hint of lightning, something over here, I don't know. The water has, it's not calm. There's white, what do you call that? I can't remember. Disturbed water. Frothing, sort of. It's not a smooth sailing. But this ship, like, I guess what the description has to do with it is, it doesn't have an engine. It does sailing and it does the rudder. So the power is limited, and it probably really has to kind of just drift and go with the flow a lot, and just be reduced to sort of steering. And maybe it's like when you're driving a car and it's slick and you brake, and there's a certain way to brake in those situations, and you definitely don't just stamp on the brake. You try not to use the brake at all if possible, and to just barely feather it, like, because you'll, I guess, come out of the slide sooner if you don't interfere with it. That's what I was told 1,000 years ago when I used to drive a car. But it just makes me think of this boat. Like, you're limited. You got the forces of nature kind of against you, like in a car with the momentum and the gravity and whatever all of that math is. And then you have like this other similar situation, like rushing water, and you've got sails and a rudder, and like that's kind of it. So you can just kind of go with the flow and try to avoid crashing into something half submerged. That's, I feel like, kind of a helpful trying to say, like, hey, oh, the other thing I said too about being the leaf was that I tell myself kind of in all situations, but because I don't remember verbatim what I said, but I know at the end of it I was talking about, I try to like just travel like a drunk, something like taking the impacts like a drunk so they don't hit me as hard. Because a lot of times, I don't know if you know this, but if you're in a car and the driver is drunk, but maybe the passengers in the same car are not, they're alert enough to like see the danger coming and tense up and do something like, put out their arms to the dashboard, which is not a great position if you're going to run into something, because the running into everything just sort of just goes right in through the front of the car, right up your arms, and it's not good, if you know what I'm saying. So relax, go with the flow. It's crazy. It's making us feel crazy the times right now, and it does feel like the world is collapsing or coming to an end. It's coming to yes, there's like a stuff ending, but we live in a world of cycles, so one end is another beginning. Okay, so the next card is Skybridge, and it is the number 47. Here is a look at it. It reminds me of both the Tower and the Chariot card. Or wait, not the Tower or the Chariot either, now that I think of it. Oh man, I haven't used the tarot cards in so long I don't know which one I'm talking about. It's the one with the two like dogs at the water, and there's like a some kind of crawfish or something in the water, and there's the moon, and there's two towers like this. God, what am I talking about? I'm not gonna go look for it. I've already taken a long time. But anyway, the card is Skybridge, and the subtitle is Possibility for Union. So, not unlike the first card, there are towers. This is long after the transfer, or maybe it's what this boat was headed toward, and so it wasn't in view yet. And maybe where the water sort of washes you up is the end of your journey where you need to be in the first place. You went through all of that. Look at everything's weathered. Like everybody and everything went through some stuff. But now you're ready to transcend, go up the stairs into the light, literally. But again, with the portals, you're going to step through this portal, this circular doorway into, I don't know what's happening on there. Something bright and well lit for sure, but it's also like leaking through to this side. If you can see there, here too, it looks like liquid, and here it just looks like maybe mist is coming out, but it looks like it's coming from here. So I don't know that that's a bad thing. If the light wants to sort of leak into this side of the world, you know, back to where we were coming from that got pretty dark, like, it could use some light. Anyway, blah, blah, blah me. Let's see what the cards, or the book says about the Sky Bridge. Possibility for union, what needs to be connected or disconnected. That, I think, is like the period that we're going through now. I feel like this kind of represents, I don't know where that calm place is. Behind something terrible. Okay, so what needs to be, possibility for union, what needs to be connected. I think there's always a possibility for union. I think that's always the ultimate goal in whatever we're collectively going through. And, you know, some things just, we outgrow. We outgrow systems. We outgrow cultural trends or cultural norms. Like, right now, here's the other thing that I was thinking about too. Like, if you're like not on that list or part of that club and you're just a normie, then you think certain things are normal. And what I've noticed, the inconsistency there is that what we think is normal is looking like is what's actually abnormal, and it looks like all of this weird fraud, criminal, dishonest perversion shit is like more pervasive than any of us ever realized, and that's coming as a shock to a lot of us. But if you've sort of been suspecting something was a stink along the way, you're not that surprised, which is good, I guess. I mean, some people have to not be losing it to hold cohesion for the whole, I guess. Anyway, let me read what this says. You stand before a seemingly unreachable abyss, and there is no possibility of retreat. Jeez. The push behind you is no longer a viable option. You have to act soon, though, or you run the risk of being stuck at the edge of the cliff. Life has brought you to this moment to offer you as yet undreamt of possibilities. Okay. But you must no longer postpone what you know to be inevitable. I think that's saying we got a face facts moment here, and the window ain't going to be open forever to, you know, right our ship. And yes, you are allowed a breath or two before the leap, so take a bit of time to yourself. Really, like, take time to, like, really scope out the situation. So you know what you're kind of getting yourself into. Like, you have a moment to breathe as you're drifting along. Observe, you know, what's happening so you know how to respond once you reach your destination, or if you have to defend yourself along the way. You do have to kind of have an eye on what's going on around you. Situational awareness. Life has brought you to this moment to offer you as yet undreamt of possibilities, but you must no longer postpone what you know to be inevitable. And yes, you are allowed a breath or two before the leap, so take a bit of time to yourself. Get away for a day or two of contemplation, or even for just a few minutes walk to clear your head. Muster your courage so that you may cross the Sky Bridge. Sky Bridge appears when the moment is absolutely right for a quantum leap. I think that's what's happening now, and it's sort of like now we're never quantum leaps too. Like, just regular leaps are not going to span the gap. Everything's going to move ahead if you can't also keep up and make those leaps. Don't you define the leap. Life believes you are ready, even if you do not agree. Remember not to confuse your true state of readiness with your plans and preparation. Respond with a determined yes, and let the universe take care of the details. You need only hold on to your positive affirmation, and the way will become obvious as you take flight and clear the abyss. I hear a lot of surrender or let go and let God in there. Okay, so the next card we have is number 18, Eye of the Eagle, rising above the fray. So this is definitely a card of taking in your perspective and, as you're drifting along, taking that breath before you take the leap. That is your time. When I was talking about observing, that is your time. Like, see all that you can that there is to see. See the reality. See the inconsistencies. See what you're getting yourself into. Hell, even see what you're willing to get into. And I guess what you're unwilling to. That, like, the book was talking about seeing what needs to be connected and disconnected. This is your moment for high focus seeing, laser focus, if you will. And the rising above the fray, if you can take yourself out of, that's the here and now moment. I mean, here and now doesn't necessarily refer to any spatial position, but if you need here and now to be up in the sky and that works for you, great. But rising above the fray also means just sort of taking yourself out of it and placing yourself in the here and now for even the briefest time. I think you can recollect yourself, recollect yourself, your situational awareness, like really bring it home to yourself. Like, here is where I am in the whole spectrum of things. Not over where this and that is happening that is so worrying that I'm allowing myself to get so upset about that it's interfering with my performance here and now, where I am. So, here and now, rise above the fray, separate yourself from the action when you can, so you can assess calmly, what you got yourself into, what you're getting yourself into. Okay, next card is the number 31, the one that started all the trouble in the first place. Oh, wait. Did I read Eyes of the Eagle? I didn't. Do I need to? Yeah, I think I do need to. I think I looked at them all, and they all had something to say that I probably wasn't going to. So, Eyes of the Eagle, the subtitles are Protection, Inherent Trust, Rising Above the Fray. The Eyes of the Eagle offers you the gift of foresight, the skill of looking ahead to see the unfolding of destiny before it all manifests as reality. Okay, so I didn't say that. Not exactly. The eagle's extraordinary vision allows it to spot the tiny mouse from its lofty perspective as it flies thousands of feet into the atmosphere. In a similar fashion, you too can train your keen eye to discern the workings of humans. True that. We learned that. Eyes of the Eagle is an invitation to witness the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful, yet react to nothing. That's easy to do if you're far away from the action. Act only to further your noblest calling. The eagle flies above all creatures. When it meets obstacles, it simply rises above them. Knowing that you are protected, you can fly high above the judgment, slings and arrows, and the darts of envy from others who may not have your great wings and are still arguing with the pigeons over crumbs. Snap! Trust that you are ready for whatever fortune has placed before you, even if you feel not yet properly equipped to meet its challenges. Your willingness to say yes to spirit has nothing to do with how well outfitted you are. Hesitating, on the other hand, will suck the air from under your wings, make you lose altitude. Wily Coyote, running off of the cliff and then making the mistake of looking down. You are called now to trust your heart and your instincts, to move fearlessly and not waver. The time is right and no harm can come your way if your motives are pure and you act courageously. These cards, to me, all sort of are have a theme, or they're very consistent for each other. Okay, so here is the last card, which was the card that started all the trouble with the pages of the book, and it's the number 31 in the hand. And the subtitle is "The Universe is Your Partner." So there were definitely flashes of this in each of the other cards that I was reading, and just, looking at it, it is saying that, like, I got you, I'm going to catch you if you're going to fall. And if you've had any kind of religious instruction or just heard, like, Christianity and religious instruction has sort of leaked or bled into a lot of popular culture, and so, that saying I said earlier, let go and let God, that's pretty commonly known, although you might know it from, like, AA, which a lot of people of all religions come in contact with and have a need for, some people in their lives. And so the concept is there. It's not just a Christianity thing. Like, pretty much every religion has, I think, a greater power that is the creator and the ultimate protector. And so here is what the book says. Feeling secure, taken care of, the universe is your partner. Something amazing happens when you contemplate your intimate relationship with your higher power. How do you engage it? Perhaps you might have seen things through the influence of your religious background, or you may have been exposed to other ways of making that connection real for you. It doesn't matter the source of your understanding. What matters is what works for you. For example, if you believe in a punitive God, you will be afraid of punishment for you or for your transgressions. If you believe in a version of a higher power that blesses you, you may find it easier to surrender to a relationship of radical trust. And that's a big message, I feel like, that we don't understand. Like, surrender, we take it as like a failing, as if you have to give up because you weren't able to cut it or something. But to me, surrender is a lot like love. It's a lot harder to commit to. It's a lot harder to admit to. It's a lot harder to give into, both of them. And so it takes strength to be able to release control and surrender, because control can get in your way. Control can be it can become a huge obstacle. And it can become a huge obstacle to you being receptive to what you could receive from spirit, the universe, however you want to call the higher power. But if you are not resistant and not trying to control events that, perhaps the universe, like, has set it in motion, and you're just there to sort of drift and go with the flow sometimes. I mean, I know we're here for a reason and we have missions and things, but maybe not always. Like it says, like maybe it's okay. Like the book said, take a break, take a breather before you look before you leap, take a breath. See what you are potentially about to jump into. So yeah, surrender. I think it deserves a second look. To continue, right now, if you imagine relaxing, curled up in the hands of the divine, how does that make you feel? Can you then turn over your needs and desires to that divine power and trust that you're safe and secure and don't have to do anything at all to feel that way? I would suggest that's a pretty alien feeling once you're not an infant that has to be carried around anymore. Once you start walking, that's the beginning of you're on your own road. Where was I? Grace is activated in your life now. You're in good hands. Your work, family, relationships, home, everything. You've done all you can, so now is the time to rest and recharge instead of producing, doing, acting, strategizing. A hot tea, a good book, and a soft blanket are in order. Surrender. You can leave it in somebody else's hands for at least the amount of time it takes to have a hot tea and a sleep. So I guess the message here is things are going to start looking kind of crazy. Don't fall apart. Don't lose it. You always got your here and now to go back to. And you can surrender in that moment to a cup of tea and take a breath and center yourself, and then maybe take another look at the situation and see if it's more bearable, if it's something that you can more comfortably approach going forward. Thank you and good night.